Imagine a darkened street, where the shadows dance ominously under flickering streetlights. The sound of footsteps echoes, quickening the pulse of anyone who dares to walk alone at night. A chilling breeze carries whispers of dread, as if the very air is laden with secrets waiting to be uncovered. In the distance, the silhouette of a figure looms, captivating yet sinister, luring unsuspecting victims with an enchanting smile. What happens when charm turns deadly and the predator walks among us? Welcome to the terrifying world of Ted Bundy, an insatiable killer whose story intertwines seduction with horror. Prepare to dive deep into the darkness as we unravel the chilling narrative of one of America's most notorious serial killers. In the 1970s, a shadow began to form across the college campuses of the West Coast of the United States, a shadow that fed on the vulnerability of youth. Ted Bundy, a charismatic and cunning man, started to plot his macabre plan, hiding his true nature beneath a facade of normalcy. The students could not imagine that the man who seemed so friendly could be responsible for a wave of disappearances and murders. He had a special way of winning people's trust, manipulating them with a seductive smile. Amid parties and social gatherings, Bundy stood out as an attractive and intelligent young man. However, behind this charming exterior lay a deep void, an insatiable need that drove him to commit atrocities. He observed his future victims, studying their habits and routines, like a predator preparing to strike. The signs were there, but no one could see what lurked in the shadows. On the night his first victim disappeared, the campus was alive with laughter and conversation. Bundy, lying in wait, seized the darkness of the night. His mind was filled with disturbing thoughts and twisted plans as he lured the young woman into his car, an act of pure evil that would leave deep scars in the community. The feeling of power he experienced in that moment would be something he sought to replicate again and again. As the weeks passed, the families of the victims began to feel the anguish of uncertainty. The police were overwhelmed, struggling to connect the dots between the disappearances. The young people, unaware of the danger, continued to live their lives while Bundy moved in the shadows, like a ghost among them. Fear began to spread slowly, but the truth about what was happening was just beginning to unfold. Bundy became increasingly audacious, taking advantage of the confusion and lack of information. The authorities were on high alert, but he always managed to stay one step ahead. The chaos he was causing was not just physical. He was destroying the sense of safety that had once permeated the lives of the students. However, for him, this was just the beginning of a series of crimes that would make him infamous. As darkness deepened and the number of disappearances grew, a sense of urgency began to rise. Law enforcement agencies were coming together, and the first hints that a serial killer was on the loose began to emerge. But Bundy, in his twisted mind, was far from giving up. He knew that soon the hunt would truly begin. As the police began to connect the dots, a chilling pattern emerged. Young women were disappearing without a trace. The horror of the situation escalated as the reports piled up, painting a terrifying picture of a serial killer at large. Communities, once filled with vibrant life, turned into sites of fear and uncertainty. Everyone felt vulnerable, haunted by the thought that the killer might be living among them, hiding in plain sight. Detectives from various jurisdictions convened, exchanging notes and insights as they delved deeper into the profiles of the missing women. Ted Bundy, on the other hand, was relishing the chaos he had unleashed. He thrived on the fear he instilled in others, feeding off the headlines that documented his reign of terror. Each disappearance was a trophy, a testament to his cunning and ability to evade capture. As investigators scoured the campuses for leads, they began to hear whispers of a man matching Bundy's description. However, they were met with skepticism. He was so charming, so likable. Many dismissed the idea that someone like him could be capable of such heinous acts. Bundy exploited this disbelief, further embedding himself into the community as he feigned concern over the disappearances. The summer heat intensified, but the fear in the air was palpable. Late-night vigils were held, candlelight illuminating the faces of worried friends and family. Bundy watched from the shadows, taking note of the increased vigilance and fear. He was a master of manipulation, using his charm to blend in, all the while plotting his next move. The chilling realization that a predator lurked nearby gripped the hearts of those who felt the impact of his actions. Despite the rising tension, the authorities struggled to pinpoint Bundy as the prime suspect. He was meticulous in covering his tracks, often switching cars and using different identities. With each new disappearance, the police became more desperate, and the public grew restless. Local news stations fueled the hysteria, amplifying the panic and uncertainty that had gripped the area. As autumn approached, so did the first real break in the case. A witness came forward, describing a man with a broken arm who had attempted to lure her into his vehicle. The description matched Bundy, and the investigators' interest was piqued. However, the question loomed large. Would they be able to catch him before he struck again? The stakes were rising, and the tension was palpable, as both the hunter and the hunted prepared for the inevitable confrontation. As the investigation intensified, Bundy grew more brazen. The police were closing in, and he knew it. This sense of urgency drove him deeper into his dark fantasies. He began to exhibit increasingly erratic behavior, luring his victims with even more elaborate ruses. Each encounter was a dance with danger, a thrilling game that only heightened his exhilaration. With every abduction, he felt an intoxicating sense of power that overshadowed the lurking threat of capture. While law enforcement agencies across multiple states struggled to connect the dots, Bundy continued his spree, seemingly untouchable. The media frenzy had transformed him into a household name, a macabre celebrity in the eyes of the public. His charm and good looks had captivated many, obscuring the monster lurking beneath. The chilling juxtaposition between the monster and the man drew people in, complicating the narrative that investigators desperately tried to establish. Desperate for leads, investigators turned to a burgeoning technology: forensic psychology. They brought in specialists to profile the killer, attempting to understand what made him tick. They analyzed the crime scenes, searching for patterns and clues, but Bundy was always one step ahead. His ability to blend in allowed him to evade the police, constantly adapting to their efforts. The investigators were left frustrated, facing a suspect who seemed to thrive on their inability to catch him. As the leaves began to fall, the chilling realization settled in. Bundy's victims were not just numbers or names. They were real people, each with their own stories. Their friends and families mourned, desperately seeking answers, but Bundy remained a ghost. The community began to transform as fear turned to paranoia, leaving residents questioning their safety in every corner. The once lively atmosphere was now weighed down by an oppressive gloom, casting a long shadow over everyday life. Meanwhile, Bundy revealed in the chaos he had sown. He had become a phantom, an urban legend that haunted the very streets he once walked as a seemingly ordinary man. The thrill of the hunt electrified him, but so did the risks. He was acutely aware that the police were becoming more vigilant, more determined to catch him. But rather than retreating, he leaned into the darkness, meticulously planning his next move as if the game were about to reach its grand finale. Then came the moment that would alter the course of the investigation forever. In a last-ditch effort, police agencies across the region launched a coordinated task force, pooling their resources and intelligence. As they pieced together the puzzle of Bundy's gruesome trail, a renewed sense of determination surged through their ranks. Little did they know that the darkness they sought to extinguish was lurking ever closer, and the next chapter of this harrowing tale would be filled with more than just blood and terror. As autumn faded into winter, the net around Ted Bundy began to tighten. Law enforcement agencies were no longer operating in silos. They had united against the menace that had haunted them for so long. With the creation of the task force, fresh leads emerged, and detectives grew hopeful that they might finally capture the elusive killer. The once fractured investigation was now a well-oiled machine, pooling knowledge and resources from across the states. Bundy, however, remained blissfully unaware of the growing pressure. He continued his calculated approach, adapting his tactics as needed. It was during one of these escapades that he made a critical mistake, an oversight that would soon lead to his undoing. He was spotted by a vigilant witness, who later reported the suspicious behavior to the authorities. This small crack in Bundy's facade began to peel back the layers of his carefully constructed reality. Meanwhile, the media frenzy only intensified, painting Bundy as a mastermind who had eluded the police for far too long. Each new story captivated the public, transforming him into a symbol of terror. The dichotomy of his charming persona against the heinous acts he committed made him both a figure of fascination and horror. Families across the nation remained on high alert, refusing to let their loved ones venture out alone, fearing the wrath of the man who had become a ghost in their lives. With every passing day, Bundy's confidence began to wane. The mounting pressure from law enforcement and the media, coupled with the knowledge that someone had seen him, gnawed at his psyche. He felt the walls closing in, yet the thrill of his dark escapades continued to lure him back to the brink. He was caught in a tug-of-war between the exhilaration of his crimes and the suffocating weight of impending doom. As winter settled in, a significant breakthrough occurred. Investigators connected the dots between multiple abductions and Bundy's modus operandi, painting a clearer picture of the man they were hunting. They realized they had to act fast before he slipped through their fingers once again. The sense of urgency grew palpable as they meticulously crafted a plan, honing in on the evidence they had gathered so far. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. With the task force ready to spring into action, they set a trap that would change everything. They staked out potential locations, ready to intercept Bundy should he make a move. Tension filled the air as they prepared for a confrontation that could finally end the nightmare. The stage was set for an explosive encounter, but no one could predict how it would unfold. Little did they know that the true horror lay not just in the man they hunted, but also in the revelations that awaited them. The air was thick with tension as the task force lay in wait. Bundy, ever the predator, had no idea he was being hunted like the very quarry he had stalked for years. It was a rainy evening when the plan unfolded, a perfect backdrop for an arrest that had been a long time coming. The investigators had tracked his movements meticulously, anticipating his next target, which led them to a quiet university campus where students roamed, blissfully unaware of the lurking danger. As the clock struck 8, Bundy made his move. Clad in his usual disguise, a cast on his arm to feign vulnerability, he approached a young woman who was leaving the library. The detectives held their breath, hearts pounding as they watched from a distance, the seconds stretching into an eternity. Just as Bundy attempted to lure her into his vehicle, the task force sprang into action. Officers emerged from the shadows, their badges gleaming under the streetlights, and surrounded him. Bundy's confident facade crumbled in an instant. For the first time, Bundy was handcuffed and brought face to face with the consequences of his actions. The smug, self-assured killer now found himself trapped, the weight of his crimes crashing down on him like a tidal wave. As he was led away, the palpable relief that washed over the task force was mingled with a sense of disbelief. They had finally caught the man who had haunted their dreams and nightmares for far too long. But Bundy was not ready to go down without a fight. His charm and charisma, which had helped him evade capture for so long, emerged even in custody. He began to weave a web of manipulation, trying to convince investigators that he was not the monster they believed him to be. Each interview became a game of cat and mouse, as he sought to portray himself as a misunderstood figure, desperate for empathy rather than punishment. The task force remained resolute, refusing to be swayed by his psychological tricks. In the following days, Bundy's charm wore thin as evidence mounted against him. The investigators meticulously laid out their findings, revealing the chilling connection between him and the victims. For Bundy, the thrill of evasion was replaced by the dread of exposure, the realization that his time was running out. Each piece of evidence felt like a noose tightening around his neck, drawing closer and closer. As the media caught wind of his arrest, a frenzy erupted. Headlines screamed his name, and the public clamored for justice. The transformation from a ghost haunting their lives to a captive in a courtroom became a spectacle. Bundy's trial would soon unfold, revealing the depths of his depravity and the horror of his actions. But as the task force braced themselves for the next chapter, they could only wonder, how many secrets did he still hold, waiting to be uncovered? The twisted tale of Ted Bundy came to an end on January 24, 1989, when he faced his final moments in the Florida electric chair. As the world outside buzzed with anticipation, Bundy's calm demeanor belied the chaos of his mind. Over the years, he confessed to the brutal murders of over 30 young women, but investigators believe the true number may be far higher. His life was a grotesque tapestry woven with charm and violence, a juxtaposition that left a haunting legacy. Today, Bundy's name serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a charismatic smile. If you're fascinated by true crime, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to stay updated on our next videos.